Sometimes we don't find our calling in life, it finds us. As a refugee from Laos, Kenji Saykosy was bullied as a child and turned to martial arts for self-defense. 40 years later, at Royal Tiger Academy in Damascus, Maryland, Kenji and his partner Dee Dee pass on their knowledge and passion to students of all ages, helping young people build confidence, preparing athletes for competition, and keeping our men and women in uniform safe. It's all in a day's work for Kenji and Dee Dee. The team at Royal Tiger Academy is on a mission to share their passion with the world, make a difference in people's lives, and leave a positive impact on the local community.
Hello, somebody.
Hey, somebody.
Sabadi.
Bye.
All right, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. You know, Kenji, I don't know if you remember me from like 2014, like when Facebook was just like still relatively new and we were chatting on Messenger for a little bit. Do you remember? Okay. And like somewhere I just like stopped seeing your feed, you know, and it's weird how over time, you know, you follow somebody and like, you know, or the more people you get as friends, you start losing, you know, you lose the feeds and stuff. So, but anyways, I'm glad, you know, you got in contact with John, my partner here, and you know, we're doing this. So we're really excited to have you guys on board. And like looking forward to, you know, what you guys are doing. So John, you got anything to add?
Yeah, no, guys, thanks. We're excited to have you on. You're doing some really cool things over there at Royal Tiger Academy from what we could see. And we just thought it'd be a great interview for you guys to share all the work that you're doing, what your mission is, and the backstories behind you with the, you know, with our audience. So thanks so much for joining us today. We'll kick off the show and then we'll kind of jump into the interview. All right, guys?
All right. Well, hey guys, welcome to another episode of C4 Podcast, Southeast Asian Athlete Achievement Through Adversity. If you haven't already, please follow us on IG, Lao American Sports, on Facebook, Lao American Sports Hall of Fame, C4 Podcast, and also on the website, www.laoamericansports.com. Today we have not one, but two amazing guests that are going to share their story. Boy, I didn't even introduce myself as Coach Endetka, but I am Coach Endetka, and I will send it over to my co-host, John Messina.
Yeah, so before we jump in the interview, you know, we wrapped up our 2022 season. This is our second episode of 2023, so welcome back, everybody. Just wanted to give a couple shout outs to the folks that we see watching through the podcast analytics. Some of the biggest metro areas following us, we thank you for your support. Of course, the Chicago, Elgin area where we are at, a little biased probably because we're here. But then after that, no question, Northern California comes in next. San Francisco, Oakland, Richmond, folks in Sacramento, Fresno, and Visalia. Thank you all for following the show. Southern California, not too far behind. San Diego, Riverside County, and Orange County. Then we have Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Amarillo, and Houston. Thank you all the folks out there in Texas for following us. And next, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Quite a few followers there. So thank you, everybody in Minnesota. And with that, we're going to move into the interview. We're very excited to have Kenji and Dee Dee on with us today of the Royal Tiger Academy. So welcome to the show. Kenji, hey, we're going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background. I know you were born in Laos, came over as a refugee as a child. So why don't you start at the beginning? Tell us about your migration to America in early years.
Okay, so we came to America in 1980. So for 2 years, 2.5 years, we were refugee. Stayed in a refugee camp in Thailand. So I was about, I would say 3 in a camp. And my mother and I, we came over to, crossed over to Mekong before my father. My father stayed behind because he was working with the military. And fortunately and unfortunately, my father, he lost his leg. He stepped on a mine bomb.
Mm.
And it was very, we were very blessed that he survived to make it across. As you know, back then, you talk about medics. They're not going to have that, you know, for him to make it over and survive. And then for us to reconnect in the refugee camp. And then, you know, for, I guess, almost 2 years, then a church in Cary, North Carolina sponsored my family. and that's how we made it to America.
All right.
Okay. Do you remember what camp you were in? Just curious.
Ubon.
Oh, Ubon. Okay. Okay. Yeah, my wife was in Nong Khai as a child, about the same age, like 3 years old or something. And then several of our other guests were in the Nong Khai camp. So
Yeah,
just curious.
I think my family was in Nong Khai and Udon. Like Nong
You,
Khai and Udon Thani is close together, like an
yeah,
hour.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. Well,
What
good.
I remember, I don't know.
Yeah, you were like 5 co, right? So
Oh,
hard to remember
yeah,
back
yeah,
then.
yeah.
Um, well, good. So tell us a little bit about how you got into martial arts then and growing up in Cary, North Carolina.
Well, as you know, a lot of Lao people were new to America, so there was not many Lao people around, and having to deal with like racism, bullying,
Mhm.
all this kind of stuff. Um, I guess it martial arts was something that I almost had to learn on my own, you know, and I was fortunate enough to have friends that were training. We're poor, so our family's not going to be sending me to karate class, you know. And so how I got started was a lot of my friends were taking martial arts, and I would train with them, and they would be kind of mad at me that they're going to training, but I'm beating them up. So
At what age? What age were you here? How old were
elementary,
you? Okay. Okay.
yeah, I was, I remember even like being picked on riding the school bus. One
Mm-hmm.
occasion, kids
Oh.
slapped me in the back of the head, and one day I just got fed up with it and turned around and punched him in the face. And so yeah, it's like we teach not to fight, but there's gonna always be a line, and that you have to stand up for yourself, and you know, and that's one of the things that we teach our students to, always walk away. It's not worth it, but you have the skills to protect yourself or your family. Then you have the right to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, and so through high school, um, train with friends, because Lao Muay Thai Muay Lao is pretty much the same thing. And so I have a lot of friends that went to train until when I finished high school. That's when I went out on my own, because my parents kind of like, they want me to be, engineer, lawyer, doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my I knew my passion was martial arts, and um, I joined the school, and all started from there. Within like less than a year, I received my black belt. I started teaching in 6 months. Never really like professionally or been at a gym, but I think that's one of my callings, to be a martial artist.
So many similarities, your story and mine, Kenji. I mean, coming to America, only family. I came in 75, so there was no other family and being picked on. And I hated riding the school bus. Oh, the school bus was worse than school. I dreaded going to the school bus, and coming home in a school bus because that's where a lot of the bullying and the racism and all that happened. But I chose working out to build my muscles, almost like you know, um, wanting to be this bodybuilder, and that was my outlets. And like you, I would love to coach and to teach. And I recently just come back. I was in Thailand, and it just made me think about, man, how I'd love to go home, back to Laos and like help, with like the bodybuilding team or just like health and fitness in general. But I feel like it's my calling and like giving back. I think you and we have our accomplishments, our individual accomplishments, but it's the giving back that's the rewarding part.
But
That's what makes us, I think that's our passion. So I totally agree I see the similarities.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, Dee Dee, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you know of your family's migration to America and your childhood?
With my migration, well, I would say similar to Kenji's story, my grandfather, he was a lieutenant colonel actually serving in the Lao Royal military. And it was the same thing. We had to, as refugees, but instead of him, you went, what is it, udon? So mine was Nepal.
Oh,
That
okay.
was where we were sent. But we didn't arrive until 1986. So that's when our family came to this country. But, just going through all that trauma and just being displaced, right, from our country and going, seeing just so many different things. I told a lot of some of the kids, they talk about, oh, the camps here in Mexico and whatnot. I said, you haven't seen how it is in third world countries, how it looks over there. But yes, we do. We share the similar stories. My grandfather and everything. So he's been in the military for over 25, 30 years that he served. And unfortunately, when we did come here, my grandfather did pass after a year because, during, I guess, the war, he stepped on whether it was a nail or I couldn't really recollect what my parents said, but it never truly healed. So, but he died in 1987 or towards 1988. So
Wow.
that's
So
how.
only a year or two after he got here then, huh? He passed.
Yeah. Well, my aunt and everyone, my aunt, she was already here in the US. And so that kind of helped us move the process a little faster in coming here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But also that is not only was it with my grandfather, but my father, he worked under the government clerk. So just, going through the processing helped with that as well.
Yeah.
And where did you end up in the States? Like where did you come? Where did you land?
San Diego.
Where's that?
San Diego, California.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. Wow.
Because again, my aunt, she lived over there.
Yep. Yeah, I lived in San Diego about 9 years. Now I'm here in Illinois and it's -8 out. So wonderful.
Yeah.
23 with the wind chill.
Yeah, we're 19 and still dropping right now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's getting colder.
That's crazy weather.
So Dee Dee, how did you end up getting into martial arts?
Actually, for me, martial arts is something I've always been around my whole life. I mean, well, started off really with most Asian parents, at least my father, he's always watching Kung Fu and stuff like that, when I was younger. And in Laos, we call it Namjin. So I was like, why is my dad always watching this? Yeah. But just being exposed to that and then having friends, and I have a couple of friends that actually fights professionally as well too. So I've had the exposure my whole life. Unlike Kenji, he's actually had the opportunity to really train it at an early age. Now, I should say, I guess for me to come into this, especially as, the martial arts world and realm would be when I really met Kenji. So that's how I understand more the importance of learning the self-defense aspect and the empowerment that it gives the people. So I myself, I do some training myself, but I can't say compared to Mr. Kenji here.
And what year was that when you guys met?
We've always had mutual friends and we've, kind of spoke here and there, but officially we met in later 2016.
All right. So that was the beginning. Is that the beginning of the Royal Tiger Academy, or?
Oh no, the beginning of Royal Tiger Academy, Kenji
way before then.
In North Carolina, I had my school there for over 20 years.
Oh man!
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been doing martial. I started teaching right after high school, and I opened my own school probably like 3 years after that.
Okay.
So I'm 48 now, so I have a lot of experience and
yeah.
yeah, so then when, you know, during that time and when we did meet, and then officially when he decided to move over here to Maryland, that's when I said, okay, so then we should build a brand here. But we first started off in public schools first. So you can do after school programs with them. So after a year from there, that's when we said, okay, let's decide to open the academy now, you know, to have that growing family here, not just, where North Carolina is. And until now, here we are. So we do both. We teach here at the academy, but then also at the same time, we teach at public schools.
Okay, that's interesting. So do you no longer have the North Carolina branch, I assume, Kenji, right? It's all in Maryland now?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So tell us a little bit, what's the overall mission of Royal Tiger Academy, and tell us about some of the more specifics about the programs you run and what you guys are trying to do with the kids there.
Well, I teach all ages. The youngest is 3, and my oldest student is 57.
Okay.
I train. I'm one extreme to another. From the 3-year-olds to I have one guy is going to fight his first cage fight next year, 2023. I also train law enforcement. I've trained military. So I'm I would say I'm a total mixed martial artist, not the modern sports aspects, because the knife, the gun, those elements are not taught in a cage. So I think that will set me aside from a lot of sport martial artists.
So you're more self-defense. So you have a combination self-defense, you have a combination competition.
Right. Well, the term self-defense is kind of broad, or it's kind of like I wouldn't say misleading, but it's kind of a selling point to everything. So self-defense is what you use for what you have. So it doesn't matter if you're a boxer, you can use your boxing to defend yourself. Do you understand? If you're a wrestler, you can use wrestling to defend yourself. So self-defense is just a term that you use to use what your martial arts is. So I would say you're learning to be a martial artist, and whatever skills or knowledge that you have, that's what you can use to defend yourself. Because the thing is, some schools may say they teach self-defense, but it's not working.
Yeah.
Well, it's more so of that, and it's not practical. So here we teach everything that is practical, not so much of like what you see like with porn, because it's not needed. Because if you were to, get into a street fight with anyone, realistically, everything goes. There's really no rules,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's no referee to stop you. There's no one to throw in the towel.
or you can't punch me here.
Right.
Can't punch me there.
you got to be prepared if someone pulls out a knife. There might be a buddy that's around the corner. So you have to look at those different elements. So my mission, or our mission, is basically to provide a safe and wonderful environment to teach individuals martial arts. And the benefits of that is they're learning self-defense, get in shape, build confidence, have discipline. For adults, it's a great stress reliever. Teenagers, as you know, it's just, social media is kind of crazy right now for the younger generation. And we have some teenagers that are going through some depression and stuff like that, and martial arts has kind of kept them in line and helped them. And she does beyond more than just martial arts training. She helps with if they need someone to talk to, she's a great counselor. So we not only help them physically, but the mental aspects.
It's very important.
Yes, very, very.
Yeah, so I think, the term, I would say, like I always mention to the students and parents, right? Martial arts is not just something that you carry and you take it and here, let's go get into a fight or whatever the case is, right? It's the mind, spiritual aspect of it, along with physical. It's very important. Because you could be at a very high level martial artist or MMA, in this case we teach MMA, right? But the most important aspect of that is to always be humble and have the humility for people, because think about it, if you train at such a high level and you can take on someone if someone's acting a fool, it's like, why even bother? And it's that discipline that you build. A lot of people when they meet Kenji, they say, whoa, I didn't even know he trained, because it's not one of the things that it really crosses people's mind, right? But of course, if it's needed, he'll bring it out. But the fact of the matter is, like, he's such an easygoing person. The same thing as far as with me, well, a lot of people when they meet me, they're like, wow, she's so tiny, but yet she has such a strong personality and she can hold her own, So that's the confidence that martial arts bring to a lot of people. Mostly I really enjoy more so the discipline.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. And then what you're doing as far as, with the teenagers and stuff, I think martial arts, all sports, I think, help with mental health as well. But martial arts, I think, takes it to another level, right? Because it's as much about the mind as it is about the body, for sure.
Right. Besides that, there's a lot of aspects of like leveling up and goal setting. Whereas whereas let's say a teenager wants to play football, unless he's gonna go to college and play pro, football will end up being just a hobby. No, any sport, wrestling, basketball, right? Unless they make it a profession after high school, what are you gonna do? But for martial arts, you don't have to be a professional fighter to train martial arts.
Yeah.
It can be, it becomes a way of life.
Yes, lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle.
Just like, lifestyle, just like, lifting weights. That's, I enjoy doing that too. That's part of the martial arts training, because you have to have physical strength. Some people might say, you don't have to be that strong. I'm like, no, if you have, let's say, 4 sets of skill sets: strength, speed, endurance, and stamina, right? And I only have those 3, and you have strength only, then obviously you have a little edge. So having a more skill set besides just the knowledge of martial arts is important.
Yeah, good. Well, tell us a little bit. You mentioned training law enforcement and military. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you do there.
That's fun. Because I enjoy because I really respect what they do for us. People don't realize when they go outside, they have no idea what can happen to them, especially law enforcement officers. That they got to deal with some stupid people out there. And I think one of the things that in America, the law enforcement lack physical combat training. So they only get like maybe a crash course of 4 weeks, and then they get certified and they become officers. Well, if that officer does not continue their training, he pretty much, once he goes on the field, if he has no combat experience, he doesn't know anything. He just has a gun and a taser. And so that's where the problem occurs. When someone is put into a situation and they're not comfortable, if it's life and death, then, well, to them, it might be life and death. For example, if you punch me in the face, I'm gonna know how to handle it. Even if you break my orbital bone or break my nose or my teeth gets knocked out, right? I'll know how to handle it. But if an average person, that happens to them, they're gonna freak out. So officers, when they train, they get to realize they really need this training. And unfortunately, it's not really stressed. It's only just enough for them to pass their exam. And they really need this. They don't need to learn how to ground and pound. They just need to understand how to. I think judo and jiu-jitsu is probably one of the best martial arts for them to learn. To learn how to apprehend or to control a person. And that's the problem with officers too, that they don't know how to work together. A lot of times when they try to take someone down, they're actually fighting against one person is doing this, other person is doing this. Versus where if they train together or have an understanding of a system, hey, we need to take this guy down. One of us take his legs, other person take his upper body, sweep him down on top, handcuff, and it's done. But there's too much struggling. For one is lack of training, and then two is they don't have team training. Military, I've had like guys from when I was in North Carolina. I'm trying to build here when I'm in Maryland now, but when I was in North Carolina, I was teaching guys from Fort Bragg. They would come up, and we would do pretty much whatever they wanted to learn. We would go over, whether it's like knife fighting, knife disarming, things that a lot of guys, they don't get trained unless they're in like special forces.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. So you guys teach a lot of MMA there too. What's the secret formula to MMA? Because there's different schools of thought. The grapplers, the jujitsu, boxers, and bringing everything together. What do you guys like to teach to make a successful MMA or that mix of martial arts?
Okay, so two things. If someone has no knowledge, then they get the basic of the best. For me, the best striking art would be Muay Thai, because you got the hands and you got the feet, elbows, knees, and then a mix of wrestling and jujitsu. I like more the top jujitsu instead of going pulling guard, whereas you have top control. It would be much better. Prime example, just retired Habib, if you know who he is.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
His style, because think about he's been touched maybe 2 times in his career. So having the understanding, of the different arts. So if let's say someone comes in and they have a skill set and they're a Muay Thai fighter, well, I always say add on to what they don't know and build on their strength. So there's even when I first started, I did wrestling, taekwondo, I did Muay Thai, I did boxing, but they were all separate. And I say there's a 0.5 in between each style. So unless you understand that half between the transition stages, your brain will be lagging by the time you realize, oh, he just shot for my legs, but I know how to wrestle, but I was starting striking, So you have to be put in a situation where the transition between the stages of the arts. Once you understand those, then the arts can flow much easier, or the defense, or even the offense.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, I know you guys are also doing a lot more than just running Royal Tiger Academy. Kenji, you're specifically trying to do some acting, movie production, etc. Tell us a little bit about what you have going on there and your goals.
Well, I know I was doing Loud Warrior, a couple years ago, and people don't realize the steps and the hurdles, and filmmaking is not an easy task.
Yep.
And so yes, it took me about a year and a half to finish the project, and I realized we edited to a full-length feature, but because it's a new film, a new project, one of the things to get it out is you have to submit it to film festivals, and I realized that probably would be best to re-edit it into a short film, maybe like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, because most film festivals, they have maybe like 4 openings for full length and like 20, 30 openings for, short films. The goal is to get your foot in the door. You can't think, you're like, oh, I'm this person already, so you got to start from the bottom and move your way up. And I was blessed. I was able to be in a lot of productions in Georgia, Even got um, a film. It's in what is it? Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Amazon. I have a film in there. So the goal is this year to complete Law Warrior and get it submitted, and then with our new gym, our new facility, um, when we meet our goals here, it will open up myself to start back into the film projects. You know, as you know, you need funding, you need support.
Yeah.
So it's not just like I'm gonna make a film. You know, there's a lot of involvement, you know,
Yeah.
when it comes to production.
Yeah. Yeah. Ko knows a little bit about that. He's got a documentary out there as well.
Yeah. Then,
And we,
yeah.
yeah.
It's very complicated, and it's not just about you, and it's I mean, so many other people that are involved, right? Like the director, the producer, and everybody's got they got to put it together and all that. So like it's a very complicated process. So,
Yeah.
but if he gets a chance to, like Kenji, like you say, like get that message out. That's the most important thing. When we win, when we get that message, our message out, to the world.
Right. Just my the film was um it based off of human trafficking,
Mm.
martial arts, and bullying. You know, so as far as like human trafficking, when I was in North Carolina, I was part of an organization that helped women that were trafficked. So yeah, so that's another side of me that a lot of people don't know.
Oh, wow.
I, but you know, we we're blessed to be able to help all different facts of lives, and you
Yeah,
know,
we meet so many different individuals, walks of life, and it's a blessing. And then you see the transformation in them as an individual in their life. That's the reward behind it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, so guys, what advice do you have for those that want to do something like you're doing? Chase a dream, do something a little different than the 8 to 5, cubicle job or factory job. What advice do you have for somebody who'd love to do something like what you're doing?
yeah. I mean, I guess main thing is you have to be honest with yourself. Um, not many people can do certain things. Like for instance, I can't be a doctor, so there's no way I want to be a doctor. you know, um, if you're gonna, as far as let's say you want to open your own business, right? Number one is you have to have the skills and you have to have education, no matter what the field it is. And if you want to be the best, you have to continue to educate yourself and continue to train. So I always say is the best black belt is a white belt that's still training. Because once you stop and once you know everything, then you're either plateaued or you think you know everything. And as for me, as a mixed martial artist, both the traditional aspects and the modern, there's no way I'm gonna master 7 styles of what I teach. So I better keep on learning.
Well, life it's about, you know, an endless journey of learning. Once,
Yes.
once I tell people, when you think you know it all, you have already failed, because, or else life is actually going to humble you. You learn from everyone. Every day I'm learning things from people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to me, that's enriching. And if you can understand that, and, you know, um, it's a gratifying experience, right? That's why one of the things I tell my daughter. I said, listen, I was there at your age and think you know it all and all this other stuff. But it's important sometimes to not just always talk, but listen. Listen to a lot of things that goes on. Even if you may not agree with certain things, however, take into consideration with what other people are saying. Because one day you may need those advice, right? Um, But I would say, in regards to chasing the dreams and all this other stuff, find your purpose. And what is your true purpose and your passion? I think part of all this is what we do is I never really thought that I would be here because my major and everything has always been business and finance. So I handle the logistics of everything here. He gets the fun job. He trains and You know, he gets to spar with the kids and spar with the teams and all. I deal with all the paperwork, all the accounting. That's all me. But in the essence of all that, again, we go back to helping people, and I think that's important because you can sit here and make as much money as you can or what you want, but what is the reward behind that? So I believe that in every business or everything that you do, as you said, you know, get your message out there at the same time so that it can help other people. I think that that's very important. Success always comes later, right?
Right. Besides getting knowledge and experience, you have to network. You have to find other people that are willing now to be honest and to help you. Maybe like, you know, how in America you have internships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have somebody that would maybe, you know, you can go to like, hey, I'll work for free to learn what you're doing. You know, sometimes you have to do that.
Of course.
Because you, like I said, you can't just be like, I'm already good. If you're already good, then you don't, you know, then you're not going to be successful because you're only looking at a few months ahead versus where you want to be sustainable or you want to look in the future 10, 20 years from now.
Great. That's good. Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on today. Ko, any final thoughts for Kenji and Dee Dee?
I love what they're talking about, how, like, you know, you're taking a physical, what everybody sees as a physical activity, martial arts, and they're talking about, you know, the mental health issues. And as you know, I'm very big on mental health and just, you know, the wisdom, the experience, and you never stop learning, because when you do, when you think you know it all, that's when your life starts going downhill. It starts going backwards, right? So I really love their message about not just teaching a skill, teaching a lifestyle. You know, so that's a very important message. So I've really enjoyed this interview with them. I really enjoyed hearing, you know, what they've had to say.
It was a pleasure, and hopefully you and I can do something together.
That's always open. You know, I mean, I think again we have the similar passions, right? I mean, we're coming from, you know, maybe different aspects as far as physical, but you know, I just pick up weights and I put them down, right?
Yeah.
But the message, you know, you get confidence when you work out, and you feel better about yourself, and you know, a teenager, you know, that gives them, you know, that maybe doesn't have confidence, and then they start putting on some muscle, or someone, you know, loses some weight, and it does a lot for your self-esteem, does a lot for your self-confidence, you know. And with that you can go far, and then at the end of the day, once you get all that, you can give back, you know, right? And it's just, you know, this process that keeps on repeating, you know, life, you know, you just handing it over to the next person, you know. So whoever you're teaching today, Kenji, is going to be teaching somebody tomorrow, you know?
Right. So, yeah, building future leaders. You know, that's great stuff.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you everybody for listening to another episode of the C4 podcast. Special thank you to Dee Dee and Kenji. Great episode, folks. That's all we have for today. The C4 podcast is brought to you by the Lao American Sports Hall of Fame. Visit us on the web at laoamericansports.com. Celebrating the first, inspiring the next.